Looking to 2025, we have an extremely promising content slate, including Captain America: Brave New World, Lilo and Stitch, The Fantastic Four, First Steps, Zootopia 2, and Avatar: Fire and Ash.
No Snow White again.
Worth noting that a successful Disney movie today drives more value than it ever has in the past.
The closest that Bob Iger ever got to that idea is that he said these brand extensions always boost the numbers on Disney Plus, but $500 million to make a Snow White film, there's no way that they can make that money back on Disney Plus.
Especially when it mocks the original film.
Yeah,
when it mocks the original film, I don't think you're going to get the bounce on the streaming side.
I mean, really, we're talking about a $400 million, maybe $500 million Snow White film that they didn't even mention on this earnings call.
No,
and they want to say that they spend less.
I think what they're talking about, I think what he was trying to say, Jonas, if I'm not mistaken, is that there is this cumulative effect, right? So when they say, what is our content spend? And they look at somebody like Netflix, and Netflix spends, and I don't remember exactly what it is, but let's say that Netflix is spending $25 billion to $30 billion a year, or whatever it is, on content. Disney is saying, well, we've reduced that. That's, of course, sports aside. We're spending $20 billion, let's say. And I'm kind of fudging numbers here just for the sake of making the point, right? Disney can say that they're spending less, but the problem is Disney is perhaps cumulatively spending less than their competitors, like a Netflix, but they're also producing far, far, far less content for what they're spending. Netflix is spending more, and if Netflix is spending 10 to 15 to 20% more than Disney, they're probably producing 3 times the content. That's the difference. So July of 2023, now about, 15 months ago, at this point, we got this article from the Daily Mail. Snow White and the 7 politically correct companions. First pictures of new live-action remake of Disney classic shows stand-in princess walking with a diverse band of merry men after an argument, in other words, using dwarf actors. This was what we saw. This was summer of last year. These were during some pickup shoots that were happening in the UK. Now, as far as we know, everybody in that image, the 7 dirty hippies, okay, this is what Disney was replacing the 7 dwarfs with. Because if you recall, Peter Dinklage, the king of the dwarves, said that it would be insulting to use dwarf actors and have dwarves in the movie, to, of course, which all of the other dwarf actors out there were put out of work. Good job, Peter. But in this case, we saw in the pickup shoot exactly what they were putting together, and it looked like an absolute train wreck. And again, yes, these are real images. If you have never seen these before, Disney actually tried to deny that these were real at first. Or at least there was another publication, it might have been Variety magazine, that said that these pictures were false. Daily Mail, who wrote the original article here, came back and verified with Disney that these were, in fact, from a Disney production. So they were legit. The only thing that was not, that was out of place was this young lady who was standing in for Rachel Zegler, and I think the one who was playing the prince, okay? The 2 of the main actors. But everybody else here, this was the actual character set. And we saw this. They were doing some drone footage, I believe, getting some overhead shots to add in. This absolutely sank this movie. When these pictures released, this movie sank Disney. It did not take long after this. And if you recall, this was around the same time we started hearing Rachel Zegler make her comments about how they weren't going to do the original 1937 picture because the story was sexist and that Prince Charming was a stalker and creepy and he was just weird. Remember all that? Yeah, that Rachel Zegler, who talked about how this movie was going to be about Snow White becoming her own strong, independent woman. In other words, this new movie from Disney called Snow White does not resemble anything of the original Snow White movie, apart from maybe a costume. Other than that, the story is going to be different. The characters are going to be different. Right down to this problem here. Well, lo and behold, a few months later, we got a follow-up piece, if you remember that one. And the follow-up was to tell us that after the absolute disaster of those images and Disney absolutely getting destroyed in epic fashion online, let me show you what they did. Disney decided to, well, they suggested that they were changing everything, right? Or at least we got something of a change. And let me show you the image that I'm talking about here. Let me expand this a little bit so you can see it a little bit better. This, a few months later, about 1 year ago now, we got this image. First look at Disney Snow White. This is right at the same time, almost the same day, that they announced that they were delaying the release of the movie an entire year. And they used the excuse of the actors' strike as the reason why. The problem was when they released this, the actors' strike was pretty much ending. There wasn't supposedly anything else left to shoot in this picture. And they had plenty of time before March to promote the film, now that the actors' strike was over. They delayed it for an entire year. We all know why, because this image was fake. It was from Disney, but this at that moment was not in the movie. This was some AI-generated image that they had to make us think that this was the plan all along. I promise you it wasn't. This movie went back into some massive levels of reshoots, and yes, so we're coming up on the release of it. And the problem now is that Rachel Zegler is doing it again after Disney had seemingly kind of tamped her down a little bit. And what we got now, just in the last day or so, is this new story with Rachel Zegler, Snow White, going on another tirade, this time seemingly threatening Donald Trump and everybody who voted for him. And, of course, F Donald Trump. Her words. Let me show you. Disney Snow White actress Rachel Zegler causes controversy with unhinged social media election tantrum, hopes Trump supporters never know peace. This from That Park Place. Of course, if you're not checking out That Park Place each and every day, we've always got the news that you need over there. Make sure you stay tuned in to thatparkplace.com. Another day, another Rachel Zegler controversy. Disney Snow White actress launched into an unhinged social media meltdown, flying off the handle in the wake of Donald Trump's victory over Kamala Harris. Zegler apparently posted parts of the long diatribe, maligning and appearing to wish harm or misfortune on the incoming president and the 75.5 million Americans who voted for him again, just like in 2020, to her Instagram account during the intermission of Romeo and Juliet, the Broadway show that she's currently starring in. Yeah, she took time during intermission to have a TDS moment, a Trump derangement syndrome moment. And the screenshots can be a little hard to read, so I'm going to try to pull them up here. I think we'll have, they got them blown up enough, so that's good. Let's check these out. Thank you, That Park Place. You guys are doing a fine job. Rachel Zegler says, I find myself speechless in the midst of this. Another 4 years of hatred, leaning us towards a world I don't want to live in, leaning us towards a world that will be hard to raise my daughter in, leaning us towards a world that will force her to have a baby that she doesn't want. I digress. Leaning us towards a world that is fearful. I shouldn't be this shocked, but I am. I'm heartbroken for my friends who awoke in fear this morning after the election of Donald Trump, right? And I'm here with you to cry, to yell, to hug, to wax poetic on how the left continues to fail us in forging a new path forward. This loss should not have been, and it certainly should not have been by so many votes. Maybe should have been more. Her final line here, she says, may Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. Sorry about that. Little goof up back there. I was trying to move myself over here so you could read this. Let me try that again. This last line, I echo Ethel Kane's statement more than anything. May Trump supporters and Trump voters and Trump himself never know peace. What does that mean, Rachel? Usually when you make comments like that, there tends to be a deeper meaning behind them, right? Tends to be a little bit more subtext in there. How would you like them to never know? Trump, not just Donald Trump, the president of the United States, or the president-elect, technically at this point, but to the people who supported Trump and the people who voted for Trump, you wish that they never know peace. It's a little disconcerting to me to hear this from an individual who supports the type of politics that have repeatedly precipitated mass violence, murder, and riots in American cities for the sake of quote-unquote politics. It's a little disturbing. And it's amazing to me that this, of course, is an actress that is attached as the lead actress in a major Disney production, much bigger than anything like The Mandalorian, playing a much bigger character than, say, Cara Dune, played by Gina Carano. Disney got some splaining to do. When we saw the Gina Carano lawsuit, remember we talked about what did Disney say? Disney said that, because Gina had made some posts on Instagram like this, Gina got in trouble because she said that, she was comparing the language and the tone in the country to denigrating half of the population like this to what happened during pre-World War II Germany. Whether you like it or not, it's a fair comparison, and it is worthy of discussion. But Disney decided they wanted to outright dismiss it as being quote-unquote anti-Semitic, which of course it was not. It's an absolutely preposterous, hyperbolic, ridiculous claim. But Disney said in the response to Gina's lawsuit that we covered here with the great Ron Coleman, of course. They said that Disney has a First Amendment right to pick and choose the types of expressions of personal expressions and opinions like this. They get to pick and choose with what sort of expressions that they will affiliate themselves with, even when it comes to actors being off camera, off stage, not writing the script. Because, of course, Gina didn't wear a MAGA hat on set, didn't wear a MAGA hat in front of the camera, didn't write the script, wasn't the showrunner. She didn't ad-lib a bunch of lines about Joe Biden or whatever. Rachel Zegler's out there talking about the very thing that Gina Carano was discussing. Talking about how you're denigrating half the country to the point where they're not supposed to be people anymore. Trump voters they're not people to Rachel, I guess, because she wishes them to never know peace. Again, from the same folks that tend to loot and burn and pillage and riot American cities. But I guess this is okay with Disney, right? Because that's what they said in the Gina Carano lawsuit. They're okay with this. They're okay with Pedro Pascal out there. They're okay with Pedro back in 2016 or whatever it was, 2018. I don't remember. It might have been 20. No, it was 2020, matter of fact, during the last election cycle, the last presidential election cycle, where he put up a picture of the Nazi flag, the Confederate flag, and a picture of MAGA and said, you know, racists in 1860, Nazis in 1940, same thing now, whatever it was. That's okay with Disney. So is this, I guess. But wait, there's more. Let's go, because they actually had another one here. If I can back this up a little bit, if it lets me kind of close out. Let's see. I guess I have to go back. Okay. Other tweets. There's more stuff in each one of these. I'm not going to read all of these out individually. She talks about how terrible it is, and Elon's a big stinky doo-doo head. But let's get to the last one here. Again, think you can see what that last line is, Rachel. Okay, that's all. I'm going back on stage for Act 2 now. Can I tell you, as somebody in the past who's done theater, this is the last thing that you should be doing right before a show begins, or especially during intermission, is getting impassioned about stuff and fiddling on your phone and getting upset before you have to walk back out and finish doing your job. Very unprofessional. She says, okay, that's all. Going on stage for Act 2 now. And I need to get off my soapbox before I get too heated. She's even acknowledging it. Sending love to everyone who needs it today. Maybe some Trump supporters would like a little bit more love out of you, Rachel. May we all carry each other through the worst and hold these politicians accountable. Your Democratic governors just got very important. They already were, but hey, follow your governors. Hold them accountable. Local government is where we make the real change. This is not the end ever. It's amazing that these leftists suddenly have discovered states' rights. Suddenly the sovereignty of states is a sacred thing to them now after all these years. I will love through these 4 years as best I can. F. Donald Trump. Ladies and gentlemen, Walt Disney Company, Rachel Zegler, Snow White. Walt Disney Company. This is Disney Company approved right there, right? Right? Gina Carano, no. Made some very innocent, thought-provoking remarks. Maybe some people didn't agree with it. Nothing remotely close to this. Nothing remotely close to what Pedro Pascal was saying. Nothing even close. Wishing for Donald Trump and half the country, more than half the country, actually, about 54% of the whatever it was of the country, 53, whatever the final figure was, over half the country to never know peace. What is the opposite of peace again? Walt Disney Company. The Walt Disney Company, ladies and gentlemen. Their earnings call is tomorrow morning, by the way. Let's not forget that. So we'll be there live, 8 a.m. Eastern. Be here with us. And yeah, they have some of the transcript here, some of the other comments. But I wanted to give you my own thoughts on this. It's so... The next line in this article is spot on. The Hollywood actress who is yet to appear in a successful film. That's it. Right there. She is an overhyped nobody. And the only reason that Rachel Zegler is famous today is because she's an idiot. That's it. She is famous for being self-absorbed. She is famous for being obnoxious. She is famous for just being arrogant and, frankly, a total ditz, an airhead, a moron. That's your Rachel Zegler. That's what Disney's proud of. And let me tell you what, the next 4 years with Trump in office, it is only going to get to be more fire. I promise you. These people are not going to stop. They are only going to get worse. They're going to get more enraged, more angry, and I'm looking forward to it. Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.